Walter, my sweet baby.
Hey, what's up, man?
Dude, how you doing, buddy?
I feel pretty good.
Nice. We're sitting here 2AV, second episode after vacation. I'm making that a thing. We had the BVs, and now we have the AVs.
Not only was it after vacation, but coincidentally, also after your death.
I did die.
Yeah. So it could be AD. We could just
rip AD off. I don't even think they call it AD anymore.
I think Christians do.
Christians
right?
do, but they also.
They're
I wouldn't say they're with the times.
Yeah, the scientists go with what, BCE and C or something, Common Era and before Common Era or something
like that. Yeah. And it doesn't revolve around Jesus.
Right. Which some people could say is an improvement.
Hell yeah. Yo, welcome to Tome of Chaos. This is a podcast where we're trying to crowdsource a religion that doesn't suck. I like Walter's. We're taking the greatest hits.
Dude.
We've had people on. We've done studies on, fear. We've done studies on hope. Recently was our last episode that I thought Walter knocked out of the fucking park. We've had guests share their stories on here and provide verses to the tome. We're just ripping shit off and putting it on our thing. We don't give a fuck about IPs or anything like that. We just take it.
Yeah, dude. We're like Girl Talk. You remember Girl Talk?
Yeah, dude.
Girl Talk mashup artist, dude.
Girl Talk was so rad.
I'm putting first Timothy 2:6 over fucking the Quran. I don't know. I'm making a mashup.
We're making mashups, baby. Hell yeah, dude. Girl Talk was so sick. Yeah, so that's what we do here. And then we've started, since our vacation and my death and resurrection, we've starting our episodes off with a question from Yahoo Answers. Really, we want them to be your questions, which you could send to us at tomeofchaospodast@gmail.com. So we'd love those. So please send us emails with your questions. But until then, we're going to not rip off. We are not ripping off another podcast that has made this famous.
This is an original idea.
This is an original idea that I had. It's pretty genius, too. So here's my question to you, Walter.
Yeah.
People get mad at God for allowing evil and then get mad at God for punishing evil. What gives?
What does give? Okay. They get mad at God. So what? Who gets mad at God for punishing evil?
I don't think anybody.
Is that people who, is this person like somebody who's like, man, God did 9/11 and then everyone was sad about it? Is that the kind of person we're dealing with?
I don't know, man. Like when I was reading this question from the asker, and if you listen, I'm not trying to insult you one bit. I'm not going to shame you for your question. But I've literally been asking God to punish evil for a very long time.
Yeah.
Like Holocaust. Could have got rid of that. You know what I mean? Fucking QAnon. Get rid of that, homie. You know what I mean? Like there's so much shit that you could just wipe out. So, and like, it's just a weird question. I've never thought that, like, I know God allows evil. I just don't see the punishing of evil.
Yeah. The punishment, is there a person out there that's like hell shouldn't exist? I mean, maybe it's someone who's like, people shouldn't go to hell, but the Holocaust is bad, and somehow this person thinks that's incoherent.
Yeah, I guess. I guess. It's like, it's so reverse from what the question is, too. Like, I mean, it seems like to me, like, hell's where all the cool people go. You know?
Well, a lot of the cool guys, and then also all the guys like John Wayne Gacy and, people we don't want to
Unless he accepted Christ.
Unless, like Jeffrey Dahmer, he accepted Christ, so I guess we're gonna see that guy in heaven. Sick. Rad.
So what's the difference between heaven and hell at this point? Because it seems like I'm gonna be in heaven with assholes too. You know what I mean? Like, so the main difference, I think, is in heaven you got to listen to gospel, in hell you get metal.
Dude, if there's no fucking, if Black Dahlia Murder doesn't play at Heaven Warp Tour,
I'm out.
Yeah, I'm not going.
I don't want to be there, dude. Hell yeah. So Walter, today, I put together some shit on shame.
Shame.
Yeah.
Fucking Game of Thrones style.
Yeah. Well, God, dude, there's some shit that happened in Game of Thrones that maybe people should be ashamed about.
For sure.
Like the last season. But I think that I've been thinking about this a lot when I think about deconstructing my own shit. Which we've had Madeline Beal on a few times, and like she's went through like this. She talks a lot about deconstruction.
Yeah.
And that was spawned out of shame. Like that movement was spawned from people who felt ashamed, specifically women. Like a lot of women have come out of the church writing books about deconstructing their faith. And it starts with shame.
So what is the shame that is it the shame of not fitting into the ideal that the Bible specifies for people?
So I think we'll get to that.
Okay.
I think that what we need to start with is like when I say to you that shame shouldn't exist, what's that make you think?
Shame shouldn't exist. I mean, shame. I think that it feels good, right? Like my instinct is like, yeah, shame sucks.
Yeah.
Nobody likes feeling shameful.
Yeah.
It's like, the dog with the tail tucked between the legs. It's such an awful feeling.
When your dog like does something and is like, I messed up.
Yeah.
But I would argue that that's different.
Ooh, see that? We'll get to that, but
so
I do think the feeling of that going away is a good feeling.
For sure, warm fuzzies.
But also at the same time, I have this feeling of if shame didn't exist, how would I know what I did was wrong?
Which is also a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is what our world has done from a young age is confused guilt and shame as emotions. Right? Even if you read like definition, it's so weird. Like the Webster definition almost feels like you're reading the same definition over. There's a few things that change. And I'm not going to read a dictionary because fuck that.
Yeah, fuck dictionaries.
But I will tell you that so guilt, the reason the reason we have to talk about this is because I don't want to build a religion based where people feel shame. Because of some of my research I've done and the good research of a lot of fucking psychiatrists and psychologists recently have really been getting into the problem with shame. So I'll start with like telling you the differences, right? So, so let's talk about guilt. Guilt is the judgment that you have done something wrong, right? It's you knowing that you did something wrong, right? It's like, I hurt my friend.
Sure.
You know? That's
or
how
you're convicted guilty of a crime, right?
Exactly.
Like
we don't convict. We don't convict people shame. Like, we don't say like, you have been convicted of shame. You know, like, you have been convicted, you are guilty. In psychology, guilt is defined as an emotional state that appears when we feel we have failed to live up to the morals of ourselves or others, right? So guilt provokes both thoughts of how we have failed and distressing emotions like sadness, anger, and anxiety. It can cause physical reactions such as upset stomachs, your tummy hurts, and shit like that, right? But guilt can be a bad thing. But a lot of times it's healthy. It's healthy to go through the guilt, right? So you can repair guilt, right? Like, you can feel that guilt. So I fuck you over, Walter, right?
Yeah.
And which is weird because let's talk about it in every day. I can do something wrong to my wife.
Sure.
I see it happen. I notice her expressions. You know what I mean? And I see how it affects her, like my wrong to her. You know? And then through that, I'm like, I fucked up and I need to do things to make it right. You know what I mean? I need to change the way I interact with you. I need to, and that, like, I hate prison, but in a sense, that's what was supposed to happen. You serve your time, you move on, right?
Yeah.
So guilt is, I fucked up. But the difference is, shame is only inward. You don't see the outward. Like, you can see someone who feels ashamed, but it's not this thing that you did to someone else. It's the way you feel about who you are as a person.
So you wouldn't say I'm ashamed that I cheated on my partner. You would say I feel guilty for cheating on my partner.
You can feel shame for doing bad things.
Okay.
Right? Like, you can feel guilt and then guilt works into shame. But the problem is, and this is where it gets hard, is that what's the best way to say this? All right. So we look at someone who murdered someone, and that's a hard one, but I want to fucking go back to the wall right now, like murder. We look at someone who murdered somebody, and what do we title that person?
A murderer?
Yes, but they're not a murderer. They're a human being who happened to fucking murder someone.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense?
Sure.
So guilt is, I fucked up. Shame is, I am fucked up. Like, as a human being, I'm broken. I was made wrong. My body doesn't add up to the standards of other things. You know what I mean? There is a norm and I'm not in it. You know what I mean? So you feel ashamed through, like, societal norms. I'm not this way. You know what I mean? Like, so I feel ashamed by that. The thing is like, what that leads to is it breaks your self-conscious, like your confidence in your, like, it breaks you down into a person who no longer has confidence in yourself, and you begin to hate yourself. So, like, I think that there are two big differences there, just starting out. And then what happens is, like, from there, like, so there's been a lot of studies recently, and what they've done is, like, there was a prison study recently where they went in and they rated people on guilt prone or shame prone. People who like are down on themselves, people who like don't ever think that they amount, those are shameful people. People who just like are like, I fucked, like I did wrong. You know what I mean? Like, those were the guilty prone people, and they followed them. And they've done this study a lot recently with adolescents, and juvie situations, with kids, middle-aged, adult, tons of different ways. And what comes out of it is like an overwhelming result is that shame has led to abuse, addiction, suicide, eating disorders, bullying, aggression. Always. Right? And has led to people, a revolving door in prison.
Yeah.
They get out and they immediately do the same thing and get thrown back in. Whereas guilt is the total inverse of all those. People who are guilty prone make up for it and change. So guilt, that right there is that study that puts it at a different level.
Damn. So when you're guilty of something, you know you fucked up, you know you did wrong, and but you're not defined by that wrong.
No.
Whereas when you're shamed for something, you feel that is who you are.
You
that
define yourself by the crime. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And what's the hope for rehabilitation if that's who you are?
Exactly. There's none. Well, and like, here's the other thing. They talk about narcissism, right? People who like seem like assholes. They're overconfident. They're too into themselves and all this shit. Those people feel shame, but not guilt. Right? Because narcissism is like you're so wrapped up in yourself that you don't understand the guilt. Like, there's like a narcissist, like, personality disorder, right? Which is like a mental, defect. You know what I mean? Like a chemical imbalance. And those people don't feel guilt, but they feel shame. And it makes it hard for them to like move forward from it, right? Whereas people like have said, like, if narcissists felt guilt, if they felt it, like if they knew they hurt someone, if they could look at the person's face and understand it, then they would want to change.
Yeah.
But they only feel shame, so it's so hard to like break in. You know what I mean? And so let's think about that, right? Like, let's think about the LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
And transgendered people who feel ashamed for who they are because they're not, like, it's not the norm. Because we've set up these like normalcies in our society of what you should do.
Right.
At the smallest level, it's like, oh, I feel ashamed because I farted at the table. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's small. But what that turns into is I'm disgusting. And I was built disgusting. But then you take and you think about someone who's going through things with their sexuality, things with their mental, they're just their mentality, their spirituality, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like things that are broken inside of them that don't work correctly.
Yeah.
And you take that and try and like destroy shame in them. And it just can't happen. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I've felt this for a long time because I was built differently.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think we all, like, I don't think anyone can, like, be like, I don't feel shame. I think that this could happen to anyone. But
it probably happens to everyone. Yeah.
And it happens to everyone. The crazy thing is what I was reading is that women are more shame prone than men.
I believe that.
So,
I mean, society conditions women to be more shame prone in the first place.
100%. Because when you think about what women feel shame for, is for an unattainable, conflicting expectation of what they need to be. Right? Like in makeup ads and fucking motherhood, and you know what I mean? Like it's all conflicts. It's wires crossed. It's like it's, you know what I mean? Whereas men most of the time only feel shame for weakness.
That is a big component of it, but just because I've like recently someone I care for deeply has been talking to me a lot about how harmful their gender, like being prescribed maleness throughout their life, has been so fucking hard for them and has fucked them up in so many ways. It definitely cuts both ways. You know what I mean? Like I think me and you are both lucky in the way that a lot of traditional male values are things that we're good at, like being kind of stoic or fucking aggressive or whatever the fuck else.
It's easy. It's like men are supposed to, like, it's like job
but it's not easy for everyone.
Exactly.
For me and you,
exactly.
Maybe we line up with those kind of things, but like I think for everyone, and that can lead to a lot of shame too. Exactly. I mean, like, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's like it does. That's the thing. It's like we are the norm. You know, we're the straight white cis males. We're the fucking norm. At least and I'm not saying that as I believe that's the norm. You know what I mean? Because
that's what society has prescribed as a norm.
Exactly. So when you go out of those norms, that's when shame hits.
And I've experienced shame myself, and I'm not even like that.
Tell me about it, dude. Tell me about your shame, dude.
I mean, I don't know how much I want to get into like what I feel ashamed for.
Look at these eyebrows, dude. Tell me about that shame, dude.
I'm trying to think of what I'm comfortable sharing.
I can talk real quick, and you can come after, because I'm comfortable sharing everything.
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, I think that for me, it was like I was built broken. You know what I mean? Like I have bipolar 1 disorder. It's fucked up. They show, like, a lot of studies show that like shame proneness comes from like a lot of mental instabilities and chemical mix-ups and shit in your brain. Like a lot of people who have those things can be more shame prone than others. But it's because like my whole life, it's like you see these other people who can do things normally and I can't. And like, I wonder, like, why was I made like this? You know what I mean? Like, that's fucked up. Like, I am, like, in my head, I am broken. You know what I mean? There is something broken about me. And if I continue down that path, it becomes, I am broken and I need to throw myself out. You know what I mean? Like, and then you have shame. It's like, I'm broken. And because I'm broken, I'm never going to love my wife right. Because I'm broken, I'm going to fucking never have friends. Like, dude, like, my biggest thing is like one of my biggest fears is that like none of my friend groups last super long. You know what I mean? And it's like always I'm like, it's because of me. Like, because I'm broken. Those dudes still hang out. I don't hang out with them, and I have no friends.
Yeah.
You know? Like, you and I, like, this is the longest relationship I've kept as a friendship. You know what I mean? And there were times where we weren't talking. You know what I mean? Like, and like, it was like busyness, but in my head, I'm like, I'm broken. I'm fucked up.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I can completely identify with that. I mean, mine manifests from a different place, but I definitely feel a lot of shame for just like not being more emotionally engaged.
Yeah.
a lot of the time, like even with you, I remember a time like when we weren't talking a lot that I was like, man, if I hit up Dave, is it going to be like, fuck you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, did I not check in for too long? Am I not good? Do I not dedicate enough time? Like, I'm not an emotional person. I'm pretty detached a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, I would like you are like a pretty consistent on how you feel.
Right. Yeah. You know? But that can be like that. I feel bad about that.
Yeah,
I don't.
For sure.
I'm sure a lot of people are like, wow, you're stable all the time. But it's like a lot of the time I'm like, man, I went that long without checking in with my friend. Like, what do they think of me?
Yeah.
Do they believe I care?
Yeah.
And I feel ashamed of that shit for sure.
I think that's super interesting because like another point is that you thought in your head, like, man, I'm bad at this. If I call Dave now, I've been so bad at it that he's going to say, fuck you to me.
Yeah.
And that makes you feel worse. So in your head, you are already making yourself go more inward.
For sure.
Right? A little bit of shame. You sprinkled a little bit of shame in your fucking life. And now you're like, I'm inward. I don't want to contact that friend. You know what I mean? I'm an asshole. And it's better off if I just don't address it. And then you just keep building that shame. And then you can see those things of like suicide, depression, alcoholism, you know, abuse, like starting like to rear their necks.
For sure.
Yeah. So through this, and like that's like what I'm hitting, like that's shame. Shame is fucked up. If you want more on that, there are tons of fucking studies. Brene Brown is a woman. She has a podcast, and she's been doing it. So what happened is like, I think it was 15 years ago that these two people got together and wrote a book. And in their book, they had like been like, there's like what we kind of see is maybe there's some good shame and there's bad shame. And they start calling it toxic shame. But they were also like, there's some good guilt and there's bad guilt. And what this woman did was take that and was like, I'm going to be a shame researcher. That's it. That's what I'm going to do. Brene.
Okay.
And she came back and she said, no, like in our findings, it's all toxic shame. There's guilt, which is good in ways. Like if you stay there for too long, if you reconcile and still feel guilty, that that starts becoming shame.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the initial is like, that's how you heal. Like that's a sense that we gained as people because we care about each other.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if someone fucking just in like everyday life, if somebody fucking cuts me off, you know what I mean? Like a lot of times you'll see them wave sorry or something or be an asshole and keep going. But it's like people are willing to say sorry. They're willing to like try and like be a better person. But shame doesn't allow that in a way because it's not about being a better person. It's about being a different person than how you were made. You know what I mean? Like you're never good enough. You're never going to be there. So I think that when I was reading about this, the first thing that came into my mind was one, they said like parents are the first fucking indicators of shame. Parents are bad. but and we're bad at it, right? Like, because in times, you know, like I look at sometimes when I interact with my son and it's like, I'm getting too hard. He starts like feeling it in his person and he can't do right. You know what I mean? So I've had to start, and Sarah is the one who turned me on to this jam, dude. Like Sarah was talking about this months ago and and I'm an asshole and I didn't listen.
Yeah.
I love you, Sarah, so much. She listens to every fucking episode. And like the reason I'm building this is because of her.
Fuck yeah.
But I think that the thing, so it's like I put that on Dre and it becomes shame, right?
Yeah.
And I think as parents, we have to do better at being like, look, this isn't who you are.
Yeah.
This is something you did. You can be better. So the difference is when like my son does something, it's like, you fucked up, homie. And you should probably change that. You know what I mean? Like you got to do something. You got to do better at that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But if he comes to me and like I just say this, right? Like this was the one, like when I said it to myself in the mirror this morning, it hurt me a little bit. It's like if my kid comes to me and tells me that, or I see him do something wrong and I say, you should be ashamed of yourself. That's fucking heavy.
Yeah.
You know, just the way you say that, even it's like you should be ashamed of yourself. And no, like you shouldn't. Like people make mistakes. Everybody has problems. So parents, and especially in our generation, we're really fucked up on mixing up guilt and shame.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, when you first told me about this concept, I couldn't even fucking pry the two apart until you explained it to me.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying is like usually when you tell people you're like, shame's fucked up and it's fucked up. You shouldn't feel shame ever.
Yeah.
People are like, whoa, what about the murderers and the rapists and the fucking blah, blah, blahs? You know what I mean? And it's like, they shouldn't feel shame either. You know what I mean? They should feel guilt for what they did, but they're still a human being. And I believe that no matter what you did, you should be treated like a human being, at least at the most minor levels, you know?
Yeah, we have to believe there's some case for redemption.
Well, and think about it. People are also just built fucked up sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
sure.
you're like, I do have a chemical imbalance that is broken in my head. And if I allow it to keep going, I will become a problem for everyone I love.
Yeah.
You know, and I will make the biggest mistakes, you know? So I think that when you look back at even criminals, it's like most of these dudes who are doing crazy shit have like a shame proneness where they're like, I'm fucked up anyways, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep doing me. Now, where this becomes the tome of chaos and not just me talking about psychology I'm reading, is the second big offender in shame culture is church.
Yep. That makes sense to me. I gotta say.
Yeah.
I can say that one that one rings true.
Exactly. Now, the reason, so first off, I said maybe, I don't know, we've been recording for almost a year, which is crazy. But I said it one time and I remembered saying this, which is crazy too, because I don't remember anything we say on this podcast.
Yeah.
Because I take my medicine beforehand. But the thing is like, I said that I felt like God was a gardener who put some plants in his house and then forgot to water them. And that's what it seemed like God's intention was with the human race, right? From the Christian Bible. I want to recant that and say that I think God is a gardener who put some plants in his house, didn't water them, and then put a plant-eating grub into their head because of shame.
Yeah.
Because in Genesis 2:25, it says Adam and his wife were both naked and they felt no shame. That's a very particular verse for the first two humans. It wasn't that they didn't feel jealousy. It wasn't that they didn't feel, it was, they didn't feel shame.
Yeah.
Then they realize their nakedness and they become afraid of God. They become ashamed. Any person who teaches the Bible and teaches shame pulls back to this verse.
Yeah.
And it's because for so long, people have thought that shame was a good thing. And you should feel ashamed.
Yeah.
Because you're messed up. You're messed up, Walter, but that's okay. Christ died for you.
Right.
You're broken, Walter, but that's okay. Christ died for you. So God created these two people that felt no shame ever. And then, because they ate of a fruit, he allowed them to feel shame. And I have issues with that.
Dude, I've always with that one, and this is gonna sound goofy, but you know what, like, always like fucking bother, even when I was like in the church and a Christian, what always like bothered me, I haven't shared this with anyone. I would always be like, man, there was this time Adam and Eve didn't feel any shame for their nudity, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that doesn't sound that incredible, right? Like,
Yeah.
there are nudists. That's a thing that exists on this earth.
Uh-huh.
I've been naked in front of people and not felt ashamed of myself. Like, just been like, this is my body. This is what it is. I can't change certain things about it. I can change other things, but this is what it is. I was like, it seems strange that like the entire basis of like such a strict thing is like they ate the fruit and then they felt ashamed.
Yeah. Yeah. They felt afraid of God.
But if we can unlearn that shame, then what is that really?
Exactly. Then we don't have any fucking problems.
Right.
I won't say that, but we don't have problems with God. So here's the fucking thing, dude. Here's the issue with sin. Here's the issue with fucking shame. Here's the issue with church. I described to you the reason I feel guilt is because I can see it happen. You don't see God cry.
Right.
You don't see God fucking stumble. You don't see God's, you can't manifest what your actions do to God.
Yeah.
So you can't feel guilt towards God. And you can't change it in a way because you are, how many times in the church was it, dude, you're fucked up, but we're all fucked up.
Yeah.
But Christ died for you and it's okay. But it's like the fucked up thing is you're not feeling guilt towards God. You're feeling shame about who you are. And it makes you go inward and get depressed and treat other people terribly. You push people who are ashamed will take that shame and put it on someone else and weigh them down. And how often do you see that in the church? At least in the church we were in.
Yeah.
Of people shame shifting and shit like that. You know what I mean? And I think that God built shame, fucked us up, and then gave this weird solution to it that you only see benefit from when you die. Maybe.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, I'm going to make you feel ashamed. But then, dude, Psalms 34, 4 and 5. So let's pair that with Genesis.
Sure.
This is David talking, who, killed his best friend to sleep with his wife and did a bunch of other fucked up shit. Was probably a colonizer. Like it's pretty fucked up.
He has some stuff to feel guilty for sure.
For sure. I sought the Lord, and he answered me and delivered me from all my fears. Those who look to him are radiant, and their faces shall never be ashamed. You built shame into us because we ate a fruit, and then told us, don't worry, you won't feel shame again if you buy into my system.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You spilt wine on my carpet and you were like, no, wait, watch me clean it up with this fucking broom. You know what I mean? Like it's fucking, it's asinine. And I think that it's broken people because in the church, it's not just like random one-off sins. It's your sexuality.
Yeah.
It's your race. It's your gender. It's what women are supposed to be. I mean, dude, read 2 Timothy about everything a woman should be, and then the one verse about what a man should be to his wife.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? And the culture has went from there and become something that I think is church-wide. And as I've been reading about this, there are few pastors. I listened to some teachings recently on a certain website from a church that's in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
It was very boring. I can't believe I used to listen to it every week, and it was riddled with errors. And the thing was, it was like, God will cure your shame. And it's just not true. Every teaching was God will cure your shame. And the only thing that cures shame, which is what Brene Brown talks about, is empathy. That's it. That's the only thing you can do.
How does empathy cure shame?
Because it's putting yourself there with that person and telling them that you love them, that you feel shame too. You know what I mean? That you sometimes feel like you're not enough and you're messed up. You know what I mean? It's giving someone who thinks that they're the only one who is like this. You know, she explains it as a petri dish. She's like, you drop a little bit of empathy in there and the fucking shame virus cannot live. You know? And I don't think telling people like, you're fucked up, we're all fucked up, God will cure us, is empathy.
No. And one thing I've been thinking about as you've been talking about this is like the fact that shame is so abstract, right? Is what allows people to carry out such heinous acts in the name of God.
Yeah.
When you think about the Crusades or you think about the war in Iraq.
I didn't even put that shit together, but I want you to keep talking, and you just blew my mind.
So George Bush says, God told me to fucking invade Iraq, right? That was a thing he said. He didn't feel ashamed of that.
No.
Because there isn't a concrete being to tie that to.
Exactly.
If there was an all-loving God, I believe this wholeheartedly. If there's an all-loving God, he did not want George Bush to fucking invade Iraq.
No.
And if George Bush could actually communicate with that being, he would feel guilt for what he was doing.
Yeah.
But instead, he felt morally clean.
Yeah.
Doing what he did, leading a genocide against a fucking people group. Right.
Yep.
And I think that's like shame is not helpful in any regard. It seems like it doesn't even guide us away from evil.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that it's like it's a virus, dude.
Yeah.
It's a virus, it's a brain-eating worm that we have to destroy. And I have read, like, the crazy thing is there are some pastors out there, none that I found in Columbus.
Good.
Bad. That are starting to try and preach a culture against shame in their church. Against what women's bodies are supposed to be. You know what I mean? Against, dude, I have heard stories of men in the church shaming their wives for not wanting to have sex with them because of the body entitlement thing that happens with Christianity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, that, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
So the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I think that the Tome of Chaos has to take a hard stance against shame.
Yeah, fuck shame for sure.
And that's my verse. Fuck shame. It's fuck shame. That's my verse.
Yeah.
It's brutal. It's dumb. I fucking hate it. It has ruined me in ways. It has messed me up. It has messed other people up. People we've had on this podcast. I fucked up. I was gonna call Madeline Beal because I asked her this question. I said, did you feel guilty about your sexuality, or did you feel ashamed about it when you were in the church? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and it's like, I didn't get to call her because I've fucking been super busy. And it sucks. Madeline, I fucking love you.
Mm-hmm.
But my bet is that she felt ashamed. You know what I mean? How is that helping anyone? You know? Because of your sexuality, you're ashamed. Because you're not a godlike mother. You're not a godlike father. Me and fucking Sarah were missing time with our kids because we were ashamed we weren't making it to meetings.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So there's no cure for it. There's no cure for it in the church except for, you know, those who look to him are radiant and their faces shall never be ashamed. And that's fake.
Yeah.
It's fake. And I'm not saying God and Jesus are fake. Like, maybe they're real, maybe they're right. But until you can see it, until God can empathize with you, you don't feel guilt against God. You feel ashamed.
Yeah. Dude, that's fucking powerful. That's a lot to fucking take in.
I might be completely wrong.
I mean, language is what language is. So, like, you know.
Yeah.
But the way guilt and shame are defined here, I definitely understand the difference between the two. And I definitely understand the concepts that are being communicated. And I don't see myself ever feeling guilty before God, but I do feel myself remembering feeling ashamed.
Exactly.
And I think that's a big difference.
You knew your nakedness and you felt ashamed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, like, the funniest thing is it's about their nakedness. The most crudest bullshit ever. It's like, you know, the first shame felt in the Bible was about people being naked. like
something that I'm like, I think I could be naked in front of people and feel fine.
Oh my! I don't think everybody's like that.
To me.
Sarah's constantly got to be like, "Don't walk in this room. They can see right into our house because I'm naked all the time." Like, I'm naked. I put on clothes, and then I don't put them back on until my wife tells me I have to. And that's like every morning. Yeah.
It's cute.
But I think that like, yeah, it's funny because it's like they were ashamed of their sexuality. They were ashamed of their genders. They were ashamed of their bodies, you know? And it's just that for 2,000 years, it's the same. The church is still shaming people over their sexuality, their bodies, their image, their genitalia, their fucking whatever. And it needs to change, because until that fucking changes, the church will die.
Oh yeah. Well, hey, we got a new church for you. Tomeofchaos, Chaos, baby.
Yeah, baby. Join us up.
We won't shame you.
No. Fuck shame. We love you.
I might make you feel guilty though if you fucked up.
Yeah, if you fucked up, you deserve to feel some guilt.
But grow from it. It's not what defines you.
Yeah, dude. Grow from your guilt. Fuck shame. So that's all I got, Walter.
Hey, that's great, man. I feel better as a person having heard what you have to say.
Thanks, dude.
I feel better about sharing I don't know. I like the idea of helping people relieve themselves of guilt. I like to believe that we're a part of that.
Yeah.
This has been a good episode. I think we're going to close up.
Yeah.
Before we do, please rate us on whatever podcast app you listen to us on, be that iTunes or Stitcher or whatever the fuck else.
Yeah.
Give us 5 stars.
Share us with one friend. That would be great.
Infinite friends.
Yeah. Or infinite. But
that would be better.
Look, dude, if you heard this and you were like, I got a friend who's shame prone, like, share this episode with them, and maybe we can help. Like, that's cool. Like, and
that would be sick, dude.
yeah, fucking share this episode. Like, that's what I'm trying to do. We're trying to build a religion that doesn't have shame. If you feel shame in your religion, join ours. We're here every Tuesday. After we get done recording, we always hop on Twitch and stream, sometimes with homies, sometimes with just Walter and I. You can find us there, twitch.tv/tomeofchaospodast. Email us questions so that you can hear your question asked at the beginning, and we won't roast you as hard as we roast Yahoo question askers.
True.
We want to.
I'll be nice.
Yeah, we want to answer your questions, so please do that. If you don't, we'll just keep grabbing Yahoo. Totally original idea. You can email us your questions at tomeofchaospodast@gmail.com. Rate us, follow us on social media, all Tome of Chaos Podcast. So that's all I got.
Thanks for putting that together for us, Dave.
Hey, dude. I appreciate it. Here's a fun fact, though, real quick before we leave.
Oh, yeah.
When you take the Hebrew of that verse where Adam felt ashamed and he told God he was afraid because he knew his nakedness. When you take that in the Hebrew and throw it into Google Translate, it says, I saw that the city was risen tall and I was afraid because I was naked. So he was ashamed that he had a boner, dude.
Had a bit of a stiffy.
Fucking a wee bit of a stiff in his pants.
Stiff. Come on now, mate.
Hell yeah. Hey, we love you. We love you all. We hope chaos walks with you this week.
Peace.
Peace.